Hello and welcome to the channel, the Fukuoka Championships. My name is Jake Atrocious. Thank you for coming in and watching this finals between Sakazuki and Perona. So after Sakazuki taking 6 of the top 16 spots, it is now in the finals, making it all this way after being dominated the last several tournaments by Yamato. But Perona having a strong showing. We featured it in the last several rounds, and it has looked pretty good. A little scary at times. It's hard to tell sometimes whether Perona's winning or losing, but they have made it all the way to the finals. Very, very cool list. One of the new leaders in OP06, trying to keep that streak alive of OP06 players winning OP06 championship tournaments in Japan. But just for full transparency, before we get this match actually going, I do not own the rights to the stream. This is the official live stream that I'm watching, and I'm doing my own unique commentary of this. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. Would love to if they want to have an English broadcaster, but for the time being, you can get the description below. We'll have the actual link of the stream if you want to listen to that but not hear me talk. So always have that available whenever I do unique commentary like this. But I just want to do extra commentary to, one, practice commentary, but also to just learn a little bit more about the game. So, going to be really interesting. We saw the Sakazuki versus Perona match last round, and so it's going to be a rematch of the semifinal. Again, there being 6, I bet the Perona has gone through several Sakazukis because it seemed to be the most popular deck, or at least one of the more stronger decks of the day. So really interesting. We'll see if it can go 2 for 2 through our stream watches. That would be very interesting to see if that led it to have like a better matchup, and which would make a lot of sense because you see a lot of rest 4 characters or whatever 4 cost for the Perona deck, and also KO 4 cost characters in the deck. So especially since all of Sakazuki's blockers are 4 and Rebecca and Borsellino, could be very, very strong. So the Perona player, after that mulligan, has a Suru, Branu, Virgo, X-Drake, and Doflamingo in hand. So not the worst hand, but could go south pretty quickly. I feel like at times the Branu, at least, is a turn 1 searcher because Sakazuki is going first that they can play, which will be very, very nice. And we'll see exactly what Sakazuki has in their hand. They probably want a Tashigi if they're going first, so then they can play a first turn character, but it looks like they don't. They have 2 Borsellinos, an Ice Age, a Rob Lucci, and a card that I don't know if I've ever seen before, or at least I don't exactly know what that is. What color is that? Blue? It is one of the new cards in OP06. It is Ama no Murakuma. So on main, return up to one of your opponent's costs 2 or lower, and up to one of your opponent's costs 1 or lower characters to the bottom of the owner's deck in any order. So really interesting event card. Works very similar to Rob Lucci. Instead of KOing, though, it goes to the bottom of the deck, which actually is more beneficial in this matchup, I feel like, than KOing, because the putting at the bottom of the deck is very, very good for countering out the Gecko Moria. But choosing to discard that right away, kind of making me eat my words in their first Dawn turn, but getting a Rebecca off that draw, and now pushing Perona into their turn. As I mentioned, going to be playing the Branu, looking at the top 3 Navy cards, grabbing 1 Borsellino Kuzan, going to be opting for the Borsellino, discarding the other 2, and passing off to Sakazuki's 3 Dawn turn. So now being able to attack, looks like they don't have too much that they would want to do at this point. They could play Ice Age, or just attach 3 Dawn and swing with Sakazuki. So they'll probably, if I had to take a guess, use Sakazuki's effect first to see what they can draw in terms of discarding a card. I'm not 100% sure what they would want to discard. They could get it back with the Rebecca blocker that they have in hand, so getting rid of the Rob Lucci and drawing into another Rob Lucci. You take away a Rob Lucci, you get a Rob Lucci. And so swinging 8 at Perona and hitting for life, getting a Sabo blocker off the life. So it could be good in future turns. We saw a lot of Sabo play in the last video. So moving into the 4-Dawn turn now. Going to be looking for some play, and Perona going ahead and swinging 5 at leader, and maybe opting to play like a Borsalino blocker, and getting life off that, getting a Rob Lucci, and opting for a Kuzan instead of the Borsalino blocker. And I think the Borsalino blocker, not going for that and instead going for Kuzan is fine, because Kuzan very, very strong in minusing cost when attacking. So if you can just get it to stick for a turn, could be really, really strong in your game plan. Drawing that Gecko Moria now in their 5-Dawn turn. Going to be trashing another Rob Lucci, so let's see what they get. It is not a Rob Lucci, it's a brand new this time. So brand new, going to be really, really good for searching. They do still have a Rob Lucci in hand that they could use. So now with 5 Dawns, a little awkward. They don't have too many characters that are not 4 or less. And going to be swinging 6 at leader and probably minusing, it looks like the brand new there for a second, putting it at 1. It would be really interesting to see where exactly this goes from here. If they like play a Rob Lucci and only KO 1 character or what. Going to be 2k countering out of that with Virgo and just playing Borsalino and passing. So getting a blocker up, unlike the Perona, going to be drawing for a turn, grabbing a Rosinante. That's a card that we saw get a lot of really, really strong play in the last round against Sakazuki. So could be something that we see prioritized and put down in this one. Let's see, they're at the 6th-Dawn turn, so the Rosinante is 2, so they could put down a Borsalino as well in the turn. They could just attach the Dawn and start swinging like crazy. That is also an option. They can rest with the Perona effect, the Borsalino blocker, and that's exactly what they're going to do. And I would assume they're going to swing at it, right? They're going to swing Kuzan first at the Borsalino. It is, isn't it a 6k body? I think it is. I think maybe they didn't remember that. Or maybe just didn't want to commit any Dawn to it. I don't know, seems silly. Actually, is Kuzan? No, Kuzan's, oh, it was going 5k at life. I was going to say, it'd be really weird if they swung at that blocker. So finding another one of those Amamo Murakumo, it does have a trigger effect that says activate the main effect. So could have done that if they wanted to, but doesn't really feel right in this point because they could only get rid of one dude. And then the Perona swing, getting at life, putting them to 1 life left, and then drawing with Sabo. So pretty strong position at this point. I feel like if you're Perona, already putting Sakazuki down to 1 life much, much, much quicker than last round, and having a ton of cards in hand. Still choosing of what they want to discard. It looks like they're thinking of the Rosinante and also a Borsalino, I think. And I think that's probably what they want to go with right here. It is going to be trashing those two. And so now into Sakazuki's turn. Going to be drawing 1 and going into 7 Dawn now. So 7 Dawn, 1 life left. Going to have to make some things happen if you're Sakazuki. They've got a ton of cards in hand and a ton of options. So going to be trashing another Rob Lucci. That's a 3rd Rob Lucci that they've trashed. They've already seen all 4 in this game. And going to be drawing into another Borsalino. Have they seen all 4 Borsalinos as well? So definitely should have shuffled better, I feel like, or maybe the cut was just right. But going to be thinking about what he wants to do with the 7 Dawn. I do think this is a little bit of a tricky position for the Sakazuki player. Because you're at 7 Dawn, it's so awkward. You can't lay down 2 Borsalinos or 2 Rebeccas. You can get a 2nd blocker on field, but you can't get a 3rd. And with your hand, it doesn't look like you can get a lot more as well going alongside that. So Perona just really opting to go really fast in terms of the pressure, in terms of at their life, and truthfully minimal board board pressure as well, in terms of, you know, board control, getting rid of blockers and stuff. So we'll see exactly how this goes. I do expect Perona to really run away with this one at this point, but if there's something that we saw in the Sakazuki versus Perona match last game, it could swing quickly. So playing down that Ice Age, minusing the cost of 5, I would think by the Sabo, and then going ahead and using that Amo no Murakuma, like I mentioned earlier, to get rid of both the brand new and the Sabo, the brand new being at 2 and the Sabo being at 0 cost after that Ice Age. So getting one character on board now, going to be swinging 5 with Sakazuki. I don't know exactly where it's going, but it looks like they're going to X-Drake counter out of it. And they are just going to do that. And so what do you do now? You definitely want to play a character, a blocker, one of your 4-cost blockers, I feel like, if you're the Sakazuki player. I think Rebecca, potentially. I don't know exactly which one you do, Borsalino or Rebecca. And you could do Rebecca, because if you do Rebecca, you can grab a Rob Lucci back. And although you can't play the Rob Lucci rested, you could play the brand new, and you still get the brand news on play effects. So that might be the best thing that you do, but instead choosing to swing 6 at life right now. So honestly, the Perona, if aggressive enough, could actually win the game next turn. Now there's no blocker on field. Still 2 Dawn left open. I think it's going to be for the brand new, but really thinking about if they want to counter out of this is a 7K swing at Kuzan and just getting rid of it. So interesting that they let that one go, in my opinion. Going to be seeing 2 Hinas and an Ice Age off of this. Could be that you let the Hina, pick up the Hina, or let them go. I think maybe letting them go is better because of the Rebecca, but I think you're really just thinking about, you know, your board presence. Like, what have you got to pressure on the board besides a bunch of blockers, right? So I think they're thinking about if they want to get a Hina in their hand, because they could, well, no, they can only put 1 Hina down with the Rebecca, but they could put a Hina down raw from hand as active to really get the pressure on next turn. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. The Kuzan is gone. I'm still surprised that they let the Kuzan go at this point. I feel like keeping it could have been really, really effective, because you know that they're not going to play a blocker, so you almost like go for game, I feel like, right? Although you're only going to be at 9 Dawn, so maybe going for game is not in the cards, because they do have a lot of cards in hand. So you may think that they have like some 2K counters and stuff like that, some Surus, Tashigi, things of that nature. So maybe opting just to go for the slower route. Maybe the game plan for Perona is to just go like extend the game longer. So now at 8 Dawn for Perona, drawing into another Sabo blocker. Going to be thinking about what they want to do in this one. Could X-Drake, I will say. I'm going to be attaching 3 Dawn over to Perona and swinging 8 at Borsalino, I think that is. It's either a Borsalino or life, one of the two. I'm going to be thinking about if they want to counter it. They won't. Then Borsalino going down, and then playing the Sabo, once again going for the slower game and just kind of building their hand and board state. So getting 2 cards, thinking about getting rid of the brand new and also another card. I'm trying to think of what you would want to get rid of. The X-Drake we haven't really seen. It has just purely been counter card. So that could be another one that we see go down. It also wouldn't surprise me to see Doflamingo, although back-to-back turns of Doflamingo is really, really strong. It still wouldn't surprise me, but going with the X-Drake, I'm fine with that. I do think the 0 cost counter out of your hand is a good card to keep, as well as the 2K counters Virgo and Suru. And so drawing a great eruption now for turn. We'll see exactly where Sakazuki's game plan goes. Still at the 3-1 life, gunning Rush down early, but now kind of stalling a little bit. It'll be interesting to see where exactly they go from here. 3 Borsalinos in hand, 1 in the trash, and 3 Rob Lucci's in the trash, but 1 in hand. And so with 9 Dawn now, we've got some options. Could Great Eruption to start to draw a card. You would have 8 Dawn left to play stuff like Borsalino and Rebecca. Get several blockers down. But first, as always, going to Rob Lucci away off of Leader Effect and grab a Houndblaze. Houndblaze, a pretty good card, as we talked about in the last video, and could be a strong card again for you in this one. So we'll see where this is going. If they did a Houndblaze, then they would have 7 Dawn left, which could be a little bit awkward in terms of their game plan. If you Houndblaze, you definitely want a Great Eruption as well, but the Houndblaze can work on brand new to get brand new attacking, which is very nice. So I think you could see a Great Eruption into Houndblaze to get rid of the Sabo and get several swings into the into Perona, but going to be first playing the Hina and might be doing this instead of Great Eruption to grab a Hina, put it on play, and put the Sabo to 1 cost left into a Houndblaze. Now going to be using that Houndblaze on Branu to give him plus 3,000 power and bottom deck the Sabo. So in my opinion, that was probably a better sequence of events to grab the Rebecca and put it down, just because, you know, you get to get that -4 and then also get that Hina body on board. So swinging 6 at leader, getting a 2K block, and then swinging 6 at leader again. To that time hit for life being a brand new, and also playing another brand new to finish out their turn. Going to be grabbing a Hina raw instead of the Rebecca. So interesting spot, I feel like, in that scenario. I definitely thought they would have grabbed Rebecca instead of the Hinas, but to each their own. They've played more games with Sakazuki than I have, as I've been a Sabo main in OP05, but now at all 10 Dawn right here, it'll be curious to see where they go. They could maybe like go big man Doflamingo, swing 5. I don't know if you want to do that though. I don't feel like that's the best game plan. You do get to rest 3 or keep 3 rested, especially now that you have also put down the Rebecca blocker. So you could swing 5 into one of their rested characters, being maybe Rebecca. And it looks like maybe it was the Hina, because they just did a 6K counter, or into life, one of the two. And it looks like it is going to be a 10 drop Doflamingo. Going to be keeping and freezing the Sakazuki, Hina, and Rebecca, but the brand new stay alive. So interesting choices, I feel like, because I almost feel like I would have kept the Rebecca alive, or I mean like active, and frozen one of the brand news, because the brand news have more power than Rebecca, right? And although Rebecca is a blocker, right, you can rest her off of Perona's effects. So I almost feel like it's better to rest the brand news instead of Rebecca, or freeze the brand news instead of Rebecca, just so it's like more Dawn to commit to be able to swing with those bodies. But maybe they're seeing something that I'm not. Maybe the reason for that is because you're at 2 life left, right? So if the brand news do swing, you're not going to lose the game next turn. But if they put out another Rebecca blocker or Porcelino blocker, because they trashed a Rebecca earlier, they didn't grab it, maybe you're just going to save Perona's effect for resting an incoming blocker that is going to come into play. So freezing the Rebecca now shows that that's not another blocker that you have to go around. So actually maybe a really heads up play by the Perona player. Probably actually way better than what I was originally thinking of with freezing the brand new. So really, really cool to see that. And so going to be discarding one to draw one, grabbing a Gecko Moria in there. So the 8-drop Gecko Moria could grab a couple different options for them. Rebecca's and Branu's, I think, would be the only options of 4s and 2s. Well, 4s you could do Rob Lucci, but I think you would probably want a blocker, if anything, at this point. And so all 10 done, thinking about what he wants to do here. A Great Eruption could be good. I think they're really going to try to target down this Doflamingo. So Doflamingo now at 8 cost at this point. Using a Rebecca to potentially put down another Hina and get it down to 4. Although, do you have anything to bottom deck it and get rid of it? I don't know if you do. Because Rob Lucci's not going to have enough. So they picked up a Suru in hand. Suru going to be minusing 2 the Doflamingo, so -4 overall, puts it at 6. Going to be putting a Rebecca down as active and grabbing, I think, Rob Lucci in hand and playing the Hina Raw to get the Doflamingo down to 2, and then probably actually going to play the Rob Lucci then with the rest of the 4 to get rid of the Doflamingo. So really crazy sequence of plays. Oh, yep, it's discarded. It's discarded. But they have to put 3 cards back first. There you go. So 3 cards back. Doflamingo gets discarded. And then it goes into Perona's turn. So Sakazuki really pulling through with this and really choosing to see what he wants to do. So here's another tough scenario now for the Perona, because for the Perona, right, if you rest the Rebecca and then Doflamingo drop, you can only rest 3 of the 6 characters on field, right? And with 2 life, it was a little bit different than before, because now they have so many more characters that would be active unless you get rid of one of the characters, right? With a swing, which is probably not likely with a 4-card hand, you'd only have 5,000 power. It'd be a 1k counter. It's going to be really tough, I feel like, to get through in this game, but there is probably some sort of line that you can do with the Borsalino. And it looks like they're going to be swinging 5 at what I assume is a Hina, resting the Rebecca like I mentioned. And we'll see exactly what they do. If I had to take a guess, they would freeze Sakazuki, Rebecca, and Rebecca. And so going to be a 6k counter out of that to keep that alive. And going to be resting the 10-drop Doflamingo once again. Rebecca, yep, it's going to be those 3, just like I mentioned. And now the interesting thing about this, the Perona player, I think, really just needs to escape this turn for the most part. They just need to escape this turn. And the way that they can do that, they have 2 Suru 2k counters, but also 2 of the 0-cost Justices, which trash a card from your hand, you get 3,000 power for this battle. So unless the Sakazuki player commits all these Dawn to swing the 8s at the Perona player, I think Perona could actually live this turn and win next turn, because they committed so many resources to get rid of the last Doflamingo. I think the second Doflamingo is going to stick out of this 4-card hand. So I think that's definitely the game plan. If you're Perona at this point, just use the Doflamingos. Really just try to keep that dude stuck and really just counter out of these swings. The good news is all of these characters are 5,000 powers, so it's going to be interesting because, again, like, unless they're committing 8s, which would be 3 Dawn each, that would be 9 Dawn total. They don't have enough Dawn to get out a blocker, a Borsellino, a Rebecca, or something like that, to be able to prevent you from winning next turn. And even if they do, once again, you have the Perona effect to be able to rest one of those blockers. So an insane position right now, I feel like, for Rebecca. It has to be get rid of the Doflamingo, or honestly, you don't lose. Or, I mean, you do lose as the Sakazuki player. But yeah, we'll see what they do. Keeping those justices in hand have been so good for Perona. And honestly, the Surus, I don't even know if we've seen Surus anything but a 2K counter in this game. But yep, going to be committing 2 Dawn, swinging 7, it looks like, at leader. And 7 is just easily one of those 0-cost event cards. I think that's definitely what the game plan is that you do. But taking the life instead, again, I don't hate it. You get another card to be able to do it, and you still have several Dawn to work with, or you still have another life to work with and a ton of counters. So the Sakazuki player looking at the 4 Dawn to be able to grab the Borsellino, and going to be attaching 4 Dawn to the Hina swinging 9 at this. So personally, well, you're good either way with like taking this life. You might as well just take this life in case you can utilize the life for something. Yeah, I think you just take this, to be honest, because you can easily block the next Hina, right? It's not like the next Hina is unstoppable. Even with the Hound Blaze, you can block it. And just going to take it. It's going to be a Ryuma there, and then going to be swinging 9 at leader, and just going to be using that judgment to block it, and then discarding the Ryuma off of it, and then using a 2K counter Suru. So passing off to Perona. It looks like Perona is going to win this one. They just have to swing high enough to be able to get over. So going to be attaching enough Dawn, and with 4 cards, they could get out of it. And so going to be swinging 12 first and going to stick and take that life, and then putting the rest 8 Dawn on Perona to swing 13. So great job. Perona is going to be the winner, dethroning Yamato in Yamato's streak of OP06 championship wins. And the OP06 streak, though, still continues, winning all 3 tournaments so far. So really cool to see Perona win this one. It's definitely not Yamato, which is my favorite deck of OP06, but Perona being really strong in its own right with the excellent black cards, and then also some very strong green cards that we saw excel in several decks. So very cool. Thank you so much for watching. This was a really fun tournament to watch, especially with all the Perona games, because we didn't really get to see a ton of Perona games in the first several tournaments. So thank you again so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you're excited to play when OP06 comes out. And yeah, see you in the next one.